This is the drums. I'm Mike Drone.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Geordie Drone.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, so assuming people who get to watch this video don't know the first thing about what's happening here this weekend, how would you like to explain what's going on at this event?
It's a celebration of 20 years of punk. It's a celebration, it's the anniversary of what we used to do and what we like doing. I feel I've got as much energy now as I felt 20 years ago, just from the sheer excitement that the event's generated, basically.
There was a geezer on Granada Reports who summed it up basically. He just says he sort of went underground, it never died away, and with this festival, with the promoter, it's come straight back at him. Like the drone split up, I think, 81, but we were right there at the beginning of it. We formed at the end of 75, we played our first gig at the Roxy in London. Actually, X-Ray Specs were supporting us on that gig, so bit of a turnabout, but it was great, mate.
Right, so does the event mean anything special to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, the drummer, my brother, he's not here, but like,
He's at the bookies.
He's at the bookies. It's the first time I've seen or played with Gary for about 12 years, and the rest. First time we've rehearsed as a band for a long, long time. First time we've ever played our CD material and stuff, or album material, and it's been a real good buzz. It's been excellent.
Okay. So what do you make of the atmosphere in general, around both backstage and outside?
Oh, it's nice. Some of the bands we've bumped into.
Sounds like a missing.
Some of the bands we've bumped into, you know, there's a few older punks out there I've recognised. There's a lot of new. I think there's a lot of people out there that like the fashion of it a lot of the time, you know. I mean, it was a great. It was a great big change in music and dress sense, you know. Very original as well. If you look at any punks out there, they're not too identical. You know, they're all different. Yeah.
I think the good thing about it is, you know, the punk music inspired what is coming back now, the indie music now, the guitar music that's coming back, and we've been saved from this acid house rap stuff, which was just going disco, which, you know, that's fine. I mean, I like to dance myself, right? But this punk stuff's come back. You've got your guitar bands back, and you've got your rock and roll back, which is great. It's up the scene in every city, musically, of people getting on, you know. We're not all, you know, the best players in the world, but the stuff still got bollocks, like, and it's inspiring a lot of young people over and over again. So it's like it's second generation of punk that's going around, and it's all inspired by it.
And you only had a few bands, like in the early to mid 80s, you had like the Smiths and people like that, who weren't exactly punk, but they were keeping the guitar-driven rock and roll thing going, and there was only them and one or two others, so keeping it thriving. As they pointed out, it was all acid house rap apart from them. So they did well really to keep anything happening, didn't they?
Absolutely, it shows there's a variation now where you've got your disco, you've got your dance and stuff, but what did drop out in the 80s and what have you was your rock and roll bands, your guitars, you know, your bass, your live instruments, and like
a real drum kit.
Your musicians were like just pressing a button. You've seen people on stage, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. Press a button, dance, which to me, good crack, but it's not really
the thing with the thing with the punk bands is you didn't really have to play that well. It was very live, it was very spontaneous, it was very real, and it was. I can honestly say when the Drones were together recording and touring, it was the best time of my life. I've done a lot of things since then, but like just to come back and do the numbers again, it's like it's a brilliant feeling for me.
It's the chance that people are getting out to express themselves through music. That, you know, I would say the punk thing was about getting up and doing it, expressing yourself. You don't have to be virtuoso, but what came out of that was just got rid of all the shit snobbery that was to do with if you play music, you've got to be, you know, virtuoso player. I just threw all of that out, say what you want to say, and play what you want to play.
Yeah.
and everybody got into that, and it was, you know, it's what was needed. It's what's needed again, and it's happening.
We were all very, very young. We played to the best of our ability. We're going to play to the best of our ability tonight.
Basically.
Yeah.
So you've covered a little bit of this vaguely, but can you tell me how and why you got involved with punk rather than any other form of music?
Well, I think Peter just summed that up. But we weren't virtuoso enough to play any other type of music.
When we...
But it was the feel for it. When I was like 17 in 1975 when we first got together, and it was like, yeah, you know, I've been seeing Pink Floyd a lot, and it was a different planet.
We went, actually, it was Gus, he introduced himself as Gary, but Gus, as drone fans know him, tax reasons. Gus went to see the Pistols when I was on holiday. We were like a young garden B band, and at the time, like the Feel Goods and like Eddie and the Hot Rods, and then we saw what was happening, and we sort of identified. We had a theme. The drones within the songs and the music, they had a theme. But basically, just be yourself. Our songs are like inundated with all these things, you know, to do. Just be yourself, fight for your right to be different. That's it, basically.
And we used to go down pits and all that, didn't we? In the ranch, it was all like Bowie lookalikes and Brian Ferry lookalikes and all that. So we had a song like lookalikes. You lookalikes, leave me alone. You know, let's do something different.
Okay. Right, so there's many different versions and myths and tales of how punk came about. Which version do you believe?
I don't know any of them. Do you want to tell me?
Well, sounds like it started off from London.
Well,
it did start off from. It started off basically with Malcolm McLaren.
Yeah.
He masterminded, which has been revealed by the Pistols as just a money-making thing. But what he did do, with the Pistols, he brought out something that was in a lot of young people at the time, which wanted to change. You know, he had like. The Pistols started from his ex-clothes shop on King's Road, and they actually learned to play. He imaged the band first, a bit like Take That. Now they get the guys together to look good, and then they package it, and that's what McLaren did.
That's right. They just took hold of the New York underground scene of the early '70s, took it by the scruff of the neck, shuffled it up a bit, anglicised it, and kicked it back out again, basically, didn't they?
Another big band that we toured a lot was the Stranglers. They had a lot to do with it. They don't get sort of recognised. And the Clash.
The Stranglers took their influence from the Doors more, didn't they, than the New York scene, didn't they?
Okay, so do you think that punk actually changed anything?
Absolutely.
Not as much as it tried to. Regrettably.
As in?
Well, like we were talking about before, it made room for bands like the Smiths that came after, and one or two others, but it didn't really. The doors that punk opened have been closing slowly but surely for the last 20 years in a lot of respects. Well, that's my feeling on it anyway.
I think it's like, the 60s music that came out, you know, these demos against Vietnam and all this kind of thing, and there was the same outrage against the punk stuff, but what it did change, it changed people's thoughts. It might not change the corridors of power or this kind of thing, but it definitely changed the way people thought about music, about live acts, about expressing yourself. It was like, you know, you were a kid watching Led Zeppelin, how the bloody hell did you get there? Get a guitar, write some songs, and that stayed, and the music that came out of that, inspired lots of people, and it definitely changed.
I tend to agree with Gus that it was a brilliant scene to be in. There's only a handful of bands that ever got that famous to actually pack big venues. I.e. now, you would never get a punk band like Oasis packing out Nebworth or packing out the 9X in Manchester. It never really got that big, and I'm glad it never got that big, because the punk bands, when we toured, we played in places at like 1,000 capacity. Like the Electric Circus in Manchester, by far, in a lot of the punk autobiographies, by far was the best venue in the country.
The Roxy Club in London was about the size of this dressing room. Yeah, well, that's it. I was just...
All the early gigs at the Vortex and places like that. I mean, it was mainly. I think the punk thing was an underground thing. It came up. Some bands commercialised, got on top of the pops.
The Jam, like.
The Jam.
How can you hold a talent like Paul Willis down? You just can't hold
No,
it,
he's
can you?
top talent. So as far as it goes, you know, it was.
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely underground. It was going to be killed by sort of commercialism, and I mean the Sex Pistols kind of did that, didn't it? It was like the death of hippie or something. The death of the Sex Pistols, punks did. But I swear, I mean, once everybody started selling like punk gear and you know, Marks
That's
and
when it's
Spencer's
gone.
and that,
That's when it's gone.
He's knackered, yeah.
it's taken into the hands of other people, and as things always do, you know. But
The exact same thing happened with the mod explosion 10, 12 years before that, didn't it? So Mods was doing it all herself, then all of a sudden you can get mod gear in Marks and Spencer like that.
I think personally, which I've thought for years, the whole thing, any music, not just punk, any music and fashion, it's only a circle anyway. I mean now, it's come back round to bell bottoms, orange tops, green pants, platform shoes. I mean we had that, didn't we? You know what I mean, when I was a kid. You know, all that. No, it's true.
When I were all on oars.
When I was a lad. When I was a kid.
So, moving on to beginning of this year, how did you react when you heard that the Sex Pistols were reforming? And
The first I heard of it, I was on holiday and I got a phone call. Said, do you fancy doing this? Like, and I've lived in Kent for 10 years. Mike's lived abroad for like 10 years. And like, well, I said, I'm willing to do it. You know, I've not got to travel as far as Mike's got to travel. So he said, well, I'm willing to do it. You know?
When we got hold of my brother, he said he'd do it. Like I say, the bass player passed away a couple of years ago. So we had, in comes Geordie.
spontaneously combusted, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, who's actually never never heard of the Drones album or CDs, but upon listening, was he liked it. And
I was the kid. It surprised me for an album that came out in 1976. I wasn't. I mean, the lads can get us for it later, but I wasn't expecting it to be as slick as it was. I mean, it was well put together, arranged. I mean, it was like Anarchy in the UK. Like, it was like Chuck Berry with a hard one, and it was arranged beautifully. It was just rock and roll. It was a lot slicker than I thought. And to get that out in '76, just the job. I was surprised I hadn't heard it.
But I think when the Pistols, what your question was, when the Pistols reformed and that, you were getting a general consensus then that the punk thing was ready to come back. How long it will last, nobody. We've had some interest from Berlin, we've had a bit of interest from Japan and whatever, but it all depends, you know what I mean? It's like nobody knows. I mean, this guy, Darren, the promoter's done a hell of a job to bring the bands and put his money where his mouth is, and, you know, good one too, you know what I mean? So if something comes off after this, it should be good. I think what you might see a certain, because you've got different types of bands, right? You've got like, in the other room, GBH, skinhead bands, Sham 69. You might get tours with 4 of them, and you might get bands, maybe us and Slaughter and the Dogs, or doing another tour with a different type of punk thing, you know what I mean? That's what you might get, but who knows, the secret of the Black Magic Box.
right, so to you as a band, what would you say the best thing is that came out of punk?
Haircuts.
Yeah, right, why not? Black stockings and suspenders.
I think it was the chance for people to express themselves more. Be direct, be honest, you know.
Tell me how it is.
For good reason, you know, you can't get any better than that.
Punks were very, like I said before, very individual. They wanted to stand out in a crowd, you know, and be different to everyone else, basically. I think the fashion and the pure adrenaline and energy that came out of the punk was the main thing for me. Because we used to have a lot of things, didn't we? We used to have a lot of slogans shirts, and basic, you know, we could wear what we wanted to wear, you know what I mean? That was the best one.
Yeah, I concur with that.
You were too young to answer that.
The reason I started playing was.
But he did have a safety pin in his nappy.
I never won that.
So did I.
I've still got the scars.
Okay, so what about the worst? Is there any negative?
Oh, we used to be good friends of ours, but
These were great pals of ours. They used to follow the drawings everywhere, the worst. They used to support us. But that was another band that they used to just get on stage and make a noise. Ian as in, he'd like just go berserk.
So I used to choose the guitars for them before they went on stage, like, because they couldn't do it themselves, you know. We were really good friends of the worst. I'd love to know where they are.
Yeah.
Are they still breathing?
No idea.
Alright.
They all had, you know, like the worst were the more outrageous early punks in Manchester, but they had dead straight lives. One of them was he was a car builder, you know, he had a custom car place. They had nice little houses and kids, and then at weekends they'd safety pin up and they'd go I mean proper go for it.
They were outrageous.
They were outrageous.
Oh, dear.
I think maybe it's one of the worst things that come out of punk stuff was getting spat on. I've never actually been spat on stage. Tonight I may well be spat on for the first time, and I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but it might be quite nice. But that can't be too good.
If no one gobs you, Gus will.
Right, cheers, Gus.
You're right.
I don't want to go.
We can sort it out if it's not already going on. So.
All right, Stu, you do it for now. I'll be looking for him.
So, finally, in as few words as possible, what does punk mean to you?
You lost that one last time.
He didn't.
Or a time or two before.
No, that was what was the best
Well,
thing that
I
came
can't-
out of punk.
I'll
What
just-
does personally? I mean,
Personally, I said it before. When we were together and touring, it was a great, I would say, an honour to play with the lads, do our things. We were a very tight knit. The band, the drones were like a family. We lived it, breathed it. We rehearsed, we toured, we tried to do the best of what we had.
We were in each other's pockets all the time. None of us had about it any other way. My answer to the question, what did it mean to me, would have been the same as any other rock musician, any other form of rock and roll music would have been to play live on stage. Recording is just a pain in the butt. Just to play live on stage is the ultimate. That's it. After that, it's what you're going to do to the next gig.
And we used to do a lot of you know, like, not notorious, i.e. I'll chuck a can of lager at number 10, but like notorious with what we used to do. Like, we used to kidnap. If a journalist wouldn't give us a write-up, we'd kidnap him proper and take him back to our hotel, gagged up, and say, right, do it. And it come unstuck, but like we did get really good reviews and stuff, you know.
And we're going to do some bad ones, but there you go.
Like the photographer's being kidnapped tonight. She doesn't know it yet, but she is.
you're in luck.
Tell me about this.
Right. So that's about it. Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, just thank you very much for your time, and hope you come and you're
enjoy
gonna
it,
video the show and see what you think.
Yeah. I'll,
Enjoy
If you
it.
need anything else afterwards, we're only too willing to.
It is my address to send us a copy.